And I now invite the representative of the observer state of Palestine to take the podium.
Mr. President, there is no greater threat to international peace and security than the commission of atrocities. And yet, for 5 months now, Israel has been committing atrocities against the Palestinian people, unchecked and unhinged. And the Security Council has been prevented repeatedly from calling for an immediate ceasefire to put an end to these atrocities. This is what we are talking about, and that's why we are here today. Stopping the daily war crimes and crimes against humanity that are integral to this Israeli assault, and putting an end to the genocide underway. Israel has unleashed death against 2.3 million Palestinians under multiple forms: indiscriminate bombing, summary executions, disease, dehydration, and starvation. Starvation is not an unfortunate consequence of the war. It is one of the methods of war used by Israel. Israel is starving our people. The people besieged, bombarded, killed, and maimed and displaced. Israel is starving our children, orphaned, disabled, terrorized. Have you seen the images of Palestinian children as their lives were taken away? Or their limbs? Have you seen them shivering, scared, scarred? Have you seen them being starved? Mahmoud Fattouh died of acute malnutrition. He was 2 months old. Yazan al-Kafarne was a lively boy. He has been lying on a hospital bed for days, barely able to move. He died of malnutrition today. He was killed by Israel using starvation as a weapon. Look at our children. Look at Yazan. Look what agony they are enduring. Dozen more children who died of malnutrition have been identified, and many more have died and are dying in darkness and destitution. This has to stop. For God's sakes, this has to stop. This is a war of atrocities from its first day and ever since. Israeli soldiers are filming their crimes and taunting their victims. Israeli leaders are speaking and acting like war criminals. Israel must be told to cease fire now. Mr. President, the State of Palestine is a strong supporter of the French-Mexican initiative on veto restraint in case of mass atrocities, and of the ACT Code of Conduct regarding Security Council action against genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes, calling on all Security Council members to not vote against any credible draft resolution intended to prevent or halt mass atrocities. Had these principles been heeded, the Security Council would have called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire months ago, like this Assembly has done, thus helping to spare tens of thousands of lives and preventing the terrible suffering endured by over 2 million Palestinians for 5 months now. Mr. President, our people are no lesser people. Our people are no lesser people, I repeat. Our children are not less worthy. Their lives are not less sacred. The dehumanization we have endured aims at making the killing of our people more acceptable. As we are fully aware of the genuine solidarity of billions around the world, we are also acutely aware of those who have a much higher threshold of tolerance for Palestinian death than Israeli death, of those who believe that Israeli security somehow trumps the right to life and freedom of a nation, of those who consider us a lesser race, who have difficulties seeing us as victims, and who refuse to admit that those killing us are perpetrators of crimes, even when those crimes are occurring in broad daylight for all to see, for all of you to see, and you have been seeing. It is thus appropriate that the Vice President of the United States has chosen Selma, Alabama, to call for an immediate ceasefire. She spoke of the suffering of the Palestinian people, of the many innocent Palestinians who have been killed, of how hungry, desperate people trying to secure food for their families were met with gunfire in Gaza City, concluding by saying, and I quote, "Our humanity compels us to act," end of quote. Speaking to the meaning of Selma, Vice President Harris said, and I quote, "Freedom is not to be given. It is not to be bestowed. It is ours by right," end of quotation. And we say, and you should say with us, freedom for the Palestinian people is not to be given. It is not to be bestowed. It is ours by right. Mr. President, there is a reason why ethnic cleansing was possible in Palestine, why apartheid was possible in Palestine, why genocide was possible in Palestine. It is the certainty of the perpetrators that they will never be held accountable. Palestinian victims for decades were left to be killed and maimed and displaced and dispossessed and denied their most fundamental rights until the horror culminated with the massacres in Gaza. Israeli leaders speak openly of the crimes they are committing and of those they intend to commit. They pass laws, adopt budgets, and determine military strategies, allowing and enabling these crimes. The Israeli Prime Minister has boasted about not abiding by decisions of international courts or UN resolutions, and of having torpedoed peace efforts. This will only end by ending Israeli impunity. The era of Israeli impunity must come to an end, and we should enter a new era of accountability and sanctions. The ICC has yet to issue a single arrest warrant. The ICJ has a number of important decisions to make, but states and these United Nations have also obligations they must uphold. Israel cannot be allowed to sit among us, lecturing the rest of the world for rejecting its crimes, attacking the UN and its member states, and undermining regional and international peace and security without consequences. Israel has been emboldened to push a point, to embolden it to such a point that it feels no shame for its crimes, no regret towards its victims, that it openly defies its closest allies, that it mocks this organization, its General Assembly, its Security Council, and its Human Rights Council, that it stomps on its charter and on every rule of international law ever elaborated. Israel should be sanctioned. I repeat, Israel should be sanctioned. This is the time to do so in order to force them to behave and to comply with obligations under the Charter of the United Nations and belonging to this organization, not rewarded for its actions. Israel believes it is a state above the law, and as long as that belief is not shattered, and it should be shattered, it will continue acting as an outlaw state. Mr. President, 100,000 Palestinians have been killed and maimed. 1.9 million have been displaced. 2.2 million are enduring hunger and dehydration. We have a collective duty, all of us, to bring this unspeakable suffering to an end. Israel considers that the Palestinian people have three options. They give us three options: displacement, subjugation, or murder. Ethnic cleansing, apartheid, or genocide. We can support, who can support any longer such a despicable scheme? Who can? Who can shield any further those committing it? Who can? Sending it weapons or money or providing it with any form of support is unacceptable, for as long as it has not abandoned these criminal policies toward the Palestinian people. We salute the people mobilized around the world for Palestinian freedom. We thank them for their principled, heroic positions, including the hundreds of the thousands in the streets of New York, Washington, D.C., and more than 85 cities in the United States during the last few days. We salute the workers that are refusing to ship weapons to Israel, and we ask every country, their workers, not to load ships carrying weapons and ammunition to go to Israel to kill Palestinian children and Palestinian civilians. And I hope that all of your workers in your ports and your airports would do likewise, because this is the right thing that should be done. As one day in the past, few brave workers in a grocery store in Ireland started the boycott movement, the abhorrent system of apartheid, there are brave workers today that are beginning the process of not loading weapons to Israel and ammunition, to unleash a movement with the billions of people who are demonstrating in the streets to hold Israel accountable for the crimes committed against the Palestinian people. We salute all those who are doing these principled, heroic things in solidarity with the Palestinian people. We salute the individuals and the entities rejecting trade with settlements. Not only for settlers should be sanctioned, the entire enterprise of settlements and settlers should be sanctioned. Don't allow a single one of them to get a visa to visit any of your countries. Behave in a different way. Show them that you mean business in honoring and upholding international law and solidarity with the Palestinian people. And we salute all those working to advance accountability. The horrors of today are made possibly by yesterday's failings. We need to correct course today to generate hope tomorrow. Death and devastation and despair have prevailed because of Israeli actions, but also because of international inaction. The international mobilization we have witnessed these last few months at the United Nations, but also by states parties to the ICC and before the ICJ in recent days, must translate into an international plan for justice, freedom, and peace, and in that order. Justice, freedom, and peace, and in that order. Palestine will be free. Its people will be free. And then only then will peace be a reality for all to enjoy. And I thank you, Mr. President.